Hi, I am Linda Beard, your host and author of the upcoming book Bold Enough. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for letting me come into your world again another week. How are you doing? How are you doing really? I really hope that you are doing well. I hope that those of you that have taken the Bold Enough challenge are really doing good, that you are getting rid of all of those layers one by one, and that you are on your way, healing, forgiving, reconciling. Those layers are peeling off daily. And for those of you that are joining me for the very first time, go back and listen to the very first podcast to learn about what Bold Enough is all about. Learn about my personal journey, why I decided to be bold enough, what this journey is all about. Today, I'm going to talk about bold enough to apologize, why this is a chapter in my book. In my bold enough journey, there were things that happened in my life that I wished I would have received an apology. I never got those apologies. And as I had to go through the healing process, I had to acknowledge that I was not ever going to get those apologies. In fact, the individuals I needed to get those apologies from were no longer living. So I needed to forgive. And I also came to the realization that there were people I needed to apologize to. How ironic was that? And then as I went through my bold enough journey and thought about all the traumatic events that occurred in my life, I thought about the apologies that I did give to people. And I realized that some of those apologies were pretty sorry apologies. How ironic was that? So what is an apology anyway? Is there a way to apologize? I found out there is a way to apologize. What does apology consist of? Do you know what apology consists of? Those are good things to think about. Have you ever thought about what apology should consist of? Have you ever thought what an apology should not consist of? Well, I've got backup support today. My friend Barbara is here to help me help you with what is an apology and what it isn't. But I'm going to just give you a little bit about my personal journey regarding apologies. I will give you some examples of how I have apologized. And don't laugh. Don't laugh at me. Remember, I'm healed now, so I can be vulnerable in sharing how I have apologized before. And I bet that I am not too far from how you have apologized. So that ought to at least make you feel better as you learned how to apologize. And I hope that moving forward, you will be bold enough to apologize. So I have apologized by saying, I'm sorry. Have you done that? Have you apologized that way before? I'm sorry. I've apologized like that many times. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Different reflections in my voice, but 2 words. I'm sorry. I've apologized by saying, I'm sorry if I offended you. I didn't mean to. I've apologized by saying, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to do it, but if you would not have done that, I would not have done that. So that pretty much is the gamut of how I have apologized. Pretty much all of my life, I've apologized that way until I healed, forgiven, and then once I became bold enough, my apologies changed. So now that I am bold enough to be me and I am authentic at my core, do you want to know what my apologies sound like now? My apologies sound like this. I apologize that I offended you by saying I would do this and I did not. Please forgive me. What do you think? Is that different from I'm sorry? I'm going to bring in my friend, Barbara Jackson, and my support specialist, my person that helps me stay on track in my bold enough journey, that keeps me from saying but and taking and me going backwards and me going forward in my bold enough journey. So, Barbara, welcome back. Let's talk about bold enough to apologize. How am I doing?
You're doing better. I mean, it's a daily walk every day. You know, we have things happen to us every day, but we also, you know, we may do something to other people as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about bold enough to apologize and what is an apology. And I spoke about the buts and the ifs and apologies, and if we could just walk through with the listeners, what is an apology? Why should we leave out the words but and if, and why I'm sorry is not an apology in itself? I mean, the true meat of an apology.
Well, thanks for having me back again.
You're welcome.
Using the word if doesn't really convey that you're taking responsibility for your actions, what you've done, what you've said, or what you did not do or did not say. When you say if, it's like, well, you're saying that I did something to you, but I'm saying I didn't. If you're saying I did something to you, then I'll say, if I'm sorry, if I did this, I'm sorry. When you take full responsibility for something, your words change. You begin to think about what you did. And I'm sorry by itself can be dismissive as well, just to say, all right, let's just get this over with.
Mm-hmm.
But think about what you did. I'm sorry. And I didn't realize and not even, whether you realize it or not, just I did something to hurt you. Look at your words. I did something to hurt you. I'm sorry. This may have reminded you of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
That was not my intentions. Or what about when someone is saying, I know everybody can identify when you are having a conversation with someone, you give them your 100% attention, and then someone comes up and says, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but they do. So usually when they do that, you have to take your 100% attention off that person. So I learn to respond in a way when they say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. And I'll say, but you're going to.
Exactly. So one of the things that I learned about myself is that I was, and you use a good example, is because I, in some ways, in the very little things like interruptions, felt that I was more important than someone else.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to call myself on that. Just that one little thing. I'm not more important than somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's significant. And then you could just go down the list, so there's hurting someone, really hurting someone, and then there are things that are interrupting someone. I'm not more important than someone else.
Right.
And so these are things that you find out about yourself that you have to look in the mirror and say, I do this.
Yeah. Yeah. They become cliches,
Mm-hmm.
Statements we make to use as excuses.
Yes.
If you are impatient, maybe it's not a good time for you to talk to that person. Maybe you need to wait.
Mm-hmm.
But that person that they're talking to is just as important as you are.
Exactly.
And it's not a ticket for you to use entitlement or anything like that. But again, I have people, I get them to stop and think when they do interrupt and they say, I'm sorry, but so you're sorry, but you're still going to interrupt. And cause them to think about what their actions are. I can't be responsible for someone else's actions, but I can kind of point them out. You're not really sorry because you're going to do it anyway. It's a ticket. It's just, you're just not really sorry. So wait, be patient. And then when you have offended someone, it's usually after the fact. It's not before,
Mm-hmm.
It's after the fact. And then you can say, I'm sorry, I said this. I did this. It's the opposite of what I said earlier. Yeah, you did this for evil. God meant it for good. Well, I take responsibility at this point because that's part of grief work. The work that you do is apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
I am sorry. When I did this, it caused you not to trust me. When I lied, I caused you to hurt, to feel some pain. Think about how you would feel if it happened to you. And I apologize. Please forgive me. What I did was wrong.
So therefore, prior to my healing, when I would say, I am sorry, simply the I am sorry was not enough because I was not completing why I was sorry.
Taking fully 100% responsibility.
I was not taking full responsibility.
And yet, the other thing about not having a complete apology is some people may not know how to go beyond that, and you can help them graciously. But other than that, when you do, sometimes people use that as an excuse to say, well, I don't feel like I did this. How do you know? This is from this person's point of view. You can't take 100% fully of how they feel and to diminish it down to 20%, if I just want to use percentages as an example, to make yourself feel comfortable and feel like you don't need to apologize for what you did to this person because they 100% experienced it on the other end. Apologize.
One thing that I have found in my journey of being bold enough to apologize, when I have apologized in full sincerity and have taken responsibility for my offense, that the receiver of that apology has openly forgiven me and has reciprocated in that apology with arms wide open, has hugged me, and sometimes have been teary-eyed because they have seen my heart, the sincerity of knowing that it was painful, as painful for me as it was for them when the offense had occurred. The days prior, when I said, I'm sorry, or the ifs and the buts, I didn't receive that kind of reciprocation because I wasn't sincere. Or maybe I was, but the way it was done, it didn't matter. But the way that I do it now, it's well received because I'm not perfect. And I really mean it if I offend someone. And my offenses are less because I'm different. I'm a healed person. Back then I was broken. I had all these layers. I love myself now. I'm better. I'm a better me. My core is revealed. It's a great place to be. So listeners, be bold enough to apologize. You've heard it from Barbara. You can live it through me, what the difference is in being bold enough to apologize. Get out there and try it. Be bold enough to apologize through your authentic self. I know you can do this, but it starts through that healing and grieving process. Do not forget to join Barbara and I in the chat room. We're there for you to support you through this bold enough journey. Join the Bold Enough Challenge to be authentically you from the inside out. Have a great week. We're here for you. Join us in this bold enough journey. Be bold enough. See you next week.